pretty much every watch is made with the customer in mind. So what kind of watch are you going to get when the customer is the person making the watch, and where the people making the watch are craftsmen deeply embedded in the idea of doing things the old-fashioned way? I think what you get is a Dornbluth and Sohn, the product of Father Dieter and son Dirk's labours. But more importantly, what you get, and perhaps less prosaically, is you get something really, really special. The Dornbluth and Sohn we're talking about today is the Weltzeit Classique or Worldtimer Classic. It's traditional that we always start by talking about the measurements, so let's get that done right now. This is a 42mm watch in diameter, and long sweeping lugs give it a lug-to-lug of 52mm. It is only 12.5mm thick, and 0.5mm of that is being the gently domed crystal. Inside this wonderful case, there's a manual wind movement beating away at 18,000 beats per hour with a power reserve of 50 hours. It's time only, no date, but it does come with an independent GMT function. This is a traveler GMT. You set the home time on the smaller 24-hour dial, and then using the pusher at 2, advance the local hour forward to set your local time wherever you are. As you move, you simply press that pusher again, moving the local time to whatever it needs to be wherever you are. There aren't a lot of reviews and there's not a lot of discussion about Dornbluth and Sohn's, but the little that you see really focuses on the dial and the movement. And don't worry, we will get there shortly. However, I fear that the case often gets short shrift in that discussion. So I'm going to hover over that a little bit right now. In short, the casework is simple and simply stunning. I think the choice and execution of the finishes is the star here. The mid case is very delicately brushed with a faint but deep matte texture, contrasting with thin slivers of really high polish on the case back, bezel edge, crown, pusher, etc. All of that is overlaid on a simple but extraordinarily elegantly shaped case. One thing I would say, I'd put it this way. I spend far more time than I ever anticipated before I got the watch simply enjoying looking at this piece of metallic sculpture. Okay, with that little bit of extra love for the case done, let's move to the more obvious areas, starting with the dial. The story goes that this watch was inspired by a classically beautiful pocket watch that Dieter Dornbluth had worked on as a younger man. And the classic German pre-war pocket watch style of this watch is both plain to see and a joy to behold. It's predominantly a modernist kind of design, capturing that late 30s ideas with clean, crisp numerals, minute track, and subtly silvered dial, but with just a tincture of kind of Art Nouveau decoration with that spade hour hand. That little extra bit of decoration gives this watch, which is quite formal in its conception, a little bit of playfulness. This is a watch that is clearly disciplined but not robotic. There's obvious heart and soul inside of here. But for this most German of watches, its magic is best captured in German. I'm going to quote here a German art historian, A.B. Warburg, and again, I apologize for my German, when I say, "Der liebe Gott steckt im Detail," which I believe translates to God is in the details. And that is so true of this watch. We start with that big, empty, but sumptuous dial, a brass plate layered and grained and silvered, ultimately ending up with a silky matte surface reminiscent of what you got on those historical ship chronometers. The surface is then engraved using a pantograph. What happens there is you get an 800% scaled up version of the dial connected by a series of levers to an engraving tool. Then one of the Dornbluths, yes, one of the people the brand is named after, hand engraves every single number, every single letter, every line into that dial. It is not printed, it's engraved. Those engravings are then hand-filled with dye, creating a deep, crisp finish, unlike anything I've seen in any other watch that passes through my hands. I find this technique doubly satisfying. At arm's length, everything is outrageously and clinically clean. It creates a strange, almost uncanny, how is this possible feeling. That draws you in. You want to look closer. You reach for your loop to look closer at this thing that shouldn't exist. And what you see when you get closer is a complexity and a care in what felt so surgical at a distance suddenly becomes immensely satisfying. The care continues as we go through the dial, ranging from the cutout for the home time display and those wonderfully blued and polished hands. I can give you a very specific and very personal story about those hands, for example. My watch, which I had to wait almost a year for, was delayed for some months purely because the Dornbluths weren't happy with how the hands were turning out. So they created a whole new set for me just so that my watch was right. That says a lot you need to know about this watch. Okay, flipping the watch over, getting away from the dial and moving to the movement, we have the caliber 99.1, which begins life as an ETA 6498. But the relationship between those two movements is similar to the relationship between a butterfly and a caterpillar. Following the metamorphosis, all that's left of that original ETA is the core DNA. But all of that is now put to the service of a very different and far more beautiful beast. The movement gets a new 3/4 plate, which has been striped, bezeled, and finished in rose gold. It also gets a remodeled and hand-engraved balance cock set with a pentagraph machined and hand-burnished swan neck regulator. Across the movement, we have screwed gold chatons and a completely reworked and repositioned winding system. It is indeed remarkable. Is the finishing perfect? No. As you get close, and I mean really, really close, like using the special 4.5 times strength macro I've got, you do see the limitations of what can be achieved by people working by hand. But here, that's the point. This is a watch made by hand. And Dornbluth and Sohn isn't some abstract brand name of people from history. Dieter and Dirk Dornbluth are the core of the workforce, supplemented by a small group of artisans. These dials, movements, all that finishing, all that polishing, all the engraving, cutting and milling are done by hand by them in their workshop, which in a sense brings me all the way back to the beginning. So if you're in the market for a perfect watch, a watch made with robotic precision or intended for an oligarch able to pay for hundreds of people's labor, then maybe Dornbluth and Sohn isn't for you. If, on the other hand, you're like Dieter and Dirk Dornbluth and you want the best watch a small team of highly skilled and dedicated craftsmen can make for themselves with all the care, attention, and yes, love that they have for family, this is a watch that could be perfect for you. The good news is this watch will only cost you near as damn it $7,500 US, depending on currencies and taxes wherever and whenever you are. That price is insanely low. This watch should cost far, far more. And when you see what else is in the market for that kind of price, as I say, this price is mind-blowing. The bad news is, however, you might have to wait a while. I waited almost a year for this watch, and that got me watch number 8 off the production line in the Worldtimer. Demand has only been going one way, and I understand that the wait list for this watch is now close to 3 years. All I can say is this. Having experienced the watch, having lived with it, having looked into my box and put it on my wrist and then caught myself staring at it, I would wait that time and more to experience this watch again. And if this is the sort of watch that you think has a place in your collection, I can't imagine anything better than the Dornbluth and Sohn. I cannot recommend it highly enough.